turn. I called it past and present, painting from the figure from 1969 to now, because it covers paintings started in the 60s and through to the 90s. I started the exhibit with paintings from the late 60s because this was the first time that I was accepted at the Trenton Museum, and this was the year that I was able to show at a commercial gallery, the Kornbluth Gallery. You can see by the colors and handling of the paint that this is very much French influenced, probably Cézanne. Ocean to me. This gallery is part of the Art Center of Northern New Jersey. It was originally a church, so it has these wonderful ceilings and this beautiful space. I'm showing here because I teach at the Art Center of Northern New Jersey, and this is a faculty invitational show. The show moves from the 60s to the 70s and the 80s, and the final wall is in the 90s. Now the show starts in the 60s with this French influence painting and moves on to the 70s. Colder influenced in color.
We're going to do some recording.
Why don't you play?
And with the first satin, white satin painting, goes into the 80s, where the textures become very important. And all around until the final wall, which my prints and paintings are with raw canvas, and I feel this period is still transitional, but I use the figures in my paintings as subject for the prints, which are xerographs, which are hand finished with oil paint. This painting was very lucky for me. It won me several awards, but when it was exhibited in a museum in Iowa, I received a letter from Boise, Idaho to exhibit in a gallery there. This painting represents a very important change in the style I was using, away from the French to the larger scale painting in black and white. At the work of abstract expressionists, black and white, certainly from Franz Klein. But my important influence, of course, has always been the opposing diagonals of Degas and the cropping of the figure. At this point, I became particularly interested in man-made texture and the way it describes the anatomy of the figure, of man-made architecture, and its relation to the figure. It was the one painting that I did where I projected my drawings on the large canvas, but continued to work from the model after the composition was drawn in. In most cases, I prefer to draw directly. It's a much more satisfying experience. At this time, I was influenced by a British painter who did terrible figures, but wonderful white satin. And I was challenged to work with white satin and the brass bell. Of course, what really was interesting to me was this young woman who was a college teacher of art and who was very, very beautiful. At this period, I was able to get students who were at Bergen Community College, where I taught to pose. This student was a great admirer of Donna, as reflected in the way she dressed. Come up here. Stay here. At this period, I'm intrigued with the possibilities of white and the variations in white and textures. These are all paintings of the 80s, and as you notice, the women look directly at you. They're more confrontational than the reclining figures of the 70s. And these are mostly students and teachers. Here I'm still involved with textures and patterns and how they describe the anatomy. Okay. This wall represents paintings done in the 90s. These are 3 separate self-portraits. I usually go to self-portraits when I'm in transition, when I'm working into in a period where I'm not sure where I'm going. With the second painting, I began to work with unsized canvas, with pure linen. With the third, I went to a point that I wasn't pleased with. During this period, I have been intrigued with painters of the 1500s who do people that look like your neighbors, as though they are alive, or that they're casting figures for period pictures. And so I became interested in doing a series of profiles that would examine what happens in between drawing and painting. I'm working with my most available, cheapest model, but not my favorite. But on the other hand, working with one mirror or two mirrors is an interesting project, and I think I was getting closer to being honest with what I'm able to portray.
They're wonderful expressions. You've really captured something there.
Again, an art teacher who was lovely looking, and there was an immediacy about this that I was able to get for a while, and then maybe lost a little bit. These are xerographs made with the paintings, because the paintings were originally not stretched. They were done on just strips of canvas. And so I was able to put them on the xerograph machine and do them in various colors in oil. And I found that both the composition and the color had the horizontal, and the repetition of the faces changing in color. When I put this painting on the machine, the face was much larger than the others, and so I did other parts, and then the composition followed.